Welcome back into another episode of Climbing the Summit podcast. I'm your host, Danny Cobbin, and today I wanted to talk a little bit about a growth mindset. Not growth versus fixed mindset necessarily, but the fact that if you are struggling in your life to see clearer, to do more, to feel more at ease with yourself, maybe this is an area that might be helpful for you to look in the direction of. And a story came to mind, some thoughts came to mind, and it's mostly from the parenting world because that's where I see a lot of this stuff first. And it was like over the course of my life, I remember when I first started parenting, I had this thought that I had to make Danny a better human being from the standpoint of I didn't want him to get arrested whenever he got 18. So I was disciplining him in such a way that didn't lead to his growth and development because he was 3-4 years old. And it actually hurt me on the inside quite a bit. And I remember my dad saying things like, this hurt me more than it hurt you. And me being like, I do not understand how you spanking me could possibly hurt you more than it hurt me. But as a parent, I kind of understand that now. It's like, I don't know how to help you grow and develop into the person that you want to be. So the first thing that I could do, and this is like being hurried, being rushed, is I need to spank you. I need to discipline you in some sort of way that allows you to know this isn't okay to do. And I remember Morgan telling me one time, was something she might have overheard, maybe she came up with this, but if a kid doesn't understand what it is they did wrong, spanking them won't help. And the moment they recognize what they did wrong and they can see it, they'll start to make changes on their own. And I don't know why I had to hear that from somebody else. I don't know why I have to hear any of these things from somebody else. But something inside of me clicked, right? Like, you can hear stuff all the time. But what changes from what you heard out there to the things that you actually use? Right? There's a difference. What is that thing? And I think that that's super valuable to look at. And so I remember vividly, and I've talked about this on podcast, talking to my homeboy Rob Cook. And Rob was like laughing at me because I was upset that Danny was jumping on the couch. Ari was jumping on the couch. He was like, yo, the kids are just being kids. You need to give them a break. And it was like, that did a lot of good for me. Because I recognize that I need to go on a learning curve. And I can enjoy that learning curve. But if I'm fixed, if I'm so I gotta do it this way, and if I don't do it this way, well then everything is gonna fall apart. There's something going on inside of my mental world that's causing me to believe that, to look at things that way. And that's okay. But the moment that I can see that, there's an opportunity for me to develop, there's an opportunity for me to grow, there is something here for me to learn. The moment that happened, I then stopped looking at the situation from the level or perspective that I was looking at it from, and I was able to climb that ladder of consciousness, the elevator of consciousness, and get a different point of view, a different North Star, if you will. And instead of thinking I need to discipline my child, I started looking at a little bit of what was it that I was lacking after my dad's death at 17? Like, was I prepared to go off in the world? I didn't even know that people died. Like, I kind of knew that people died, don't get me wrong. But nobody close to me had ever died. And I didn't know that was supposed to affect me, right? Because everybody's like, you're going to be okay. Things are going to be fine. And they say that it takes about 2 years for you to move outside of that like traumatic response in order to start looking forward in your life. It took me 10 years. It took me about 10 years. And after 10 years, I was like, because my dad died. I went off to college. And I vividly remember being in Mabee Hall at ACU, and the kids in the hallway were playing Nerf gun fights. They had forts built. They were having a good time. And I was thinking, how could they possibly be having this much fun when somebody next to you could die tomorrow? And I didn't have any way to integrate that. And at the time, I didn't have anybody to talk to about it. And yeah, I went to therapy one time and I just started crying the whole time. Like, I was just crying. I didn't talk about anything. And what I knew at that moment was I don't want to cry about this. I want to be able to see and move forward. And that's the beauty of the growth mindset. That's the beauty of going on a learning curve. That's the beauty of starting to recognize when you're in alignment with who you want to be and when you're not. Is you stop looking at the outside world and trying to fix what's out there, and you start paying attention to the things that are inside of your control. What is it that I can do today to adjust or make that little bit of a shift? And look, I know that my podcast isn't something that you usually think about. You don't usually think, man, I need to go into a growth mindset. I'm very fixed. But just like in my coaching, it's the most boring hour that you're going to have, okay? Like if you come to me for coaching, it should be the most boring hour of your week because we are investigating, we are digging into some things that you normally wouldn't think about digging into. Self-reflection. Why is it that you see the world the way you see the world? You know what's cool? Loving what is and knowing that you are human. And that no matter what you do on your journey, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to get tripped up. It's part of the process. But knowing that it's part of the process is so powerful in changing your journey, changing your mindset. And when you change the way you think, the things that you see change. I can't help you change what you see, but I can help you see what you see clearer. And that's what coaching, mindset coaching is all about. Doing more of the things you love, bringing more joy to the things you enjoy. And if that's something that interests you, contact me. Hit me up. DannyCobbin@gmail.com. And let's chat. And if you take my podcast and you just utilize it as an opportunity to take 6 to 15 minutes out of your day to give something a thought that you hadn't even thought about before, right? Maybe you have thought about how do I grow and develop? How do I go on a learning curve? Maybe you have thought about that. And the way that you do that is you just start recognizing every day in and day out. Just like my son brushing his teeth. He went to the dentist. The dentist is like, he's got a couple cavities. Y'all gonna have to help him brush. So now every single night we are helping him brush his teeth. Like, hey, bro, notice we're all the way in the back of your mouth with the toothbrush and we're getting the top and both sides of your teeth and trying to get the back. And like walking him every day through that process. Because each and every day, if you want to learn and develop, you don't have to look at it, right? You don't have to be focused on it, right? You don't have to be like, oh, I got to make sure that I'm growing and developing today. All you have to do is notice. And then notice as you show up to the things that you're showing up to, are you in alignment or not? And that next day, the next hour, the next few minutes, maybe something shifts. Maybe something changes.